Right, I think we are live. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing tonight? All right, we have some good things that we are going to go over tonight. Tonight is going to be a little bit uh, more heavily leaning towards the business side of things, but we are also going to tie that into personal as well. And the topic we're talking about tonight is progress, not perfection. And so, for those of you that are joining me on TikTok, welcome. Tap the screen, share the live, get this out to other people, and we're going to dive deep. If you have questions, make sure you type those in the comments and try to keep them relevant to the topic. So, if this is your first time joining me, you're getting to know me. My name is Tina. I am a happiness coach, and I help people go from being in a dark place to dealing with dealing with depression, anxiety, dark thoughts, any of that kind of stuff to being in a happier place. And I share my experience, strength, and hope. I often relay my personal experience as well as my professional experience. And why do I tie in the business stuff when I'm dealing with trauma type things? Is because I can promise you there's somebody that you work with that has experienced trauma. So learning this stuff, understanding it, even if you haven't gone through it yourself, is very valuable at cultivating better relationships, helping people become happier, including yourself as well as the people around you. Just overall brings everybody up to a better level, and that we're able to be much more productive when we're happy. When we're not happy, not so productive. Now, this isn't all about being, in the state of bliss and it's a final destination. No, that's not what happiness is. Is happiness is a lot more about finding things to be happy about as you go through the process. So, whether you're just new on your healing journey, whether you've done this a million times and you need a refresher, whatever it is, welcome. We're going to dive into some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So, progress, not perfection. So, when you are first starting out with any kind of change, whether that's a personal change or a professional change, it's exciting in the beginning, and you're highly motivated, think new year, new me kind of thing. But the hard part of change is in the middle, after the excitement, the enthusiasm has worn off, and now you just have to do the thing over and over and over again, and you're bored to tears. So the middle part is actually the hardest part, right? It's not so bad when you get towards the end and you can kind of see the finish line and it's like, okay, I just have to keep pushing a little bit. But when it's kind of like you've left the shore, you're far enough away from the shore where it's too hard to go back, yet you can't see the finish line, and you just know you have this long ass swim ahead of you. And what do, right? How do you get through that? And one of the things that I found is when you're in this middle part, especially when you have a long journey in order to achieve this change that you're looking for, is finding different ways to gamify it and make it more fun, and give yourself challenges. So for me, certain times I will do things like give myself little games, and to try and keep myself motivated by I might try to do a time challenge with myself. Well, how fast was I able to do this last time? Or okay, you're going to do this for the next hour or next 30 minutes, whatever chunk of time that you want to break that down to. It really helps with being able to say, okay, I'm going to do this for this period of time. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to want to try and do this in a bit more of an agile method. An agile method is a shorter cycle rather than a huge project plan kind of thing. So You want to know what is your target, what is the process that you're actually going to take to achieve that target, what kind of timeline are you looking at for this? And it's got to be a relatively short timeline. Think like either the next 24 hours I'm going to do this, the next week I'm going to do this, the next 2 weeks, next month. It's got to be something fairly short in your process, right? Because you're going to know the target, you're going to know the process that you're going to take, and then you're going to also know how you're going to execute on this and who is actually going to be involved with that execution. So, example, you start a new workout routine and you're like, okay, I'm going to try this new workout routine for the next 30 days and see how it works out for me. See if I actually like it. I'm going to stick with it. Instead of like, oh, because a lot of times you'll run out of gas if you're like, oh, I've got to do this workout routine. I've got to stick with this process, this method for the rest of my life. And it's like, it just becomes really heavy and it becomes really hard to stay with things. And it just feels like this ongoing upward battle. And whereas if you have a shorter time frame, whether that could be, like I said, the next 24 hours, I'm going to do this thing. And the harder it is for you, the shorter the time frame should be of I'm going to take these steps and I'm going to do these things for this amount of time. That will allow you to take that process, implement it, start moving forward towards the change, and then reassess and evaluate how did I do with that? Do I feel like I could do this another day, or do I feel like, oh shit, this is way too friggin' hard. I need to change some things. And then you modify the structure, you modify the way that you're operating, the process that you're going to take with that. It's like, okay, is this too hard? If it is too hard, then what can I do to make it more accessible? So, for example, say I picked a workout routine that is high impact aerobics or something like that. And I am at my highest weight ever and I'm over 300 pounds and that's going to be really hard on my joints. So I start to do this and I'm like, shit, I can't actually do this. Okay, well, this is where you have to start to evaluate and say, okay, well, what can I do? Okay, well, is there a way that I can modify this so that it's much more accessible for me to continue on the path? And I think while agile, it gives the impression that you can do this quickly, you can do this fast. You're not going to get to your end goal fast. However, you're going to be able to take a forward movement. You're going to take that next step in a quicker way, and then you're going to be able to evaluate this, and you're going to be able to understand, is this process actually working? Because there's nothing worse than putting in this whole big plan of exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and then you get new information. You're like, oh, well, I didn't know that we were going to run against this challenge, right? So you have to make all kinds of adjustments, and that can be really challenging when you have this huge project plan. So having these smaller ways to implement any change, whether this is in a business or whether it's in your personal life, it's much easier if you shorten that time frame rather than creating this whole plan, this whole task list of these are all the things that I'm going to do and this is how we're going to do it and all of that kind of stuff. It's much better to say, okay, you know what? For the next 15 minutes, I'm going to do this. And I kind of came across this when I was helping a friend of mine back when I first started early recovery. And she was really overwhelmed. Like she had a hard time with keeping things clean, and she was everything just seemed overwhelming for her. And so one of the things that I did to help her through that process is I said, okay, you know what? Don't worry about trying to get your whole place cleaned up. it's too overwhelming for you right now. You've got a lot of stuff on the go. She was dealing with a lot of the different emotional issues, and she kind of went up and down with feeling anxious, feeling depressed, all those kind of things. And so one of the things I did is I said, you know what? I'm going to put a timer on next 15 minutes. I want you to go and see what you can do in 15 minutes. I'm going to stay on the phone. Don't worry. Just leave me on hold. I'll find something else to do while you do that. So I'm kind of going to be your buddy. And then you can tell me at the end of 15 minutes what you were able to get done. And that for her was a much better approach. And she was able to get a lot more done than she thought she was going to get done, because what was happening is she was trying to plan out all of these things, and it was just completely overwhelming her, rather than focusing on, here's this short time frame, go ahead and don't try to do it perfect, don't try to get everything done, just tell me what it is that you were able to get done, and come back with that kind of task list of, hey, these are all the things that I did. And there was we kind of set like mini milestones, so like at the 5-minute mark, the 10-minute mark, and the 15-minute mark. And then also gave mini rewards along the way. So this can also be done so personally and then also professionally. So if you think of the things that you have to do in a day for planning out your day, what is it that you were able to do? So it's good to have like a framework of what you're dealing with, but also just putting in those mini milestones of like, okay, I'm going to do these things, and then and you know how you're going to execute that. You know who's going to be involved, who you have to report into, who has to know about this process. And then the most important piece of it is evaluating it of how did it actually go. And so when you implement those on smaller levels and you work on doing those on a daily basis, whether that, so when I'm thinking personally, I am not so great at planning out I can plan out big projects. Don't get me wrong. I can absolutely have done that multiple times. I've planned big trips. I've planned projects in the corporate environment, all of those kind of things. And I can absolutely do those. But when it comes to dealing with your healing process, you can't plan out exactly when you're going to be healed, right? So you have to take this a little bit more of this agile type approach and kind of go, okay, I know generally I want to become more healthy. I want to become more, and that is in the areas of health, wealth, and relationships, right? So now I can't tackle all of these at once. And so what I'll do is I'll implement small things and go, okay, you know what? It's kind of like when I first did keto. I didn't try to plan out. I didn't clean out my cupboards. I didn't make a bunch of changes. I didn't write out a meal plan. I didn't do any of that kind of stuff. I had a very simple target of what I was doing. Okay, I had to keep my carbs less than 20 grams a day. Okay, simple. Other than that, I could eat whatever the hell I wanted as long as the carbs were under 20 grams a day. Okay, cool. And I'm not advocating this kind of thing. This worked for short term for me, but this did help me move the needle forward. So now, did I need to make changes along the way? Absolutely. This wasn't a be-all forever plan kind of thing, but this did help me move forward. So I knew what that quick target was. I knew the process that I was going to do that, and I just reduced the time to implementation. So I just ripped off the Band-Aid. It happened to be a random Wednesday, and I just went, okay, I'm going for this. And so starting the very next meal, I went, okay, I need to make sure that I keep the carbs low. I didn't have any groceries. I hadn't topped up any groceries, and I stopped at Harvey's, which is a burger place. And I'm like, okay, so I can't have the bun because I know that's a lot of carbs. So what I did is I ordered the burger and I tore off the bun as I was eating it. So I didn't eat the actual bun. I just used it as a holder, and then I got a side salad with it. So it was something like really simple. And instead of getting ketchup on it, I got mustard and mayo because I knew those were okay. And I got pickles, onions, I skipped the tomato, and I got lettuce kind of thing on the burger. So I that was kind of like an easy way that I didn't have to put too much thought into it. I executed right away, implemented, and I started moving forward. And I was like, okay, that's not too bad. I could handle that. I felt happy. I felt satisfied after I ate that meal. So then when I went to the grocery store and I started to buy some of the groceries that I needed to kind of go through this plan, I was able to purchase, okay, focus on, okay, meats, vegetables, okay, these are the things that I actually need, and this is what I did to move forward. And I looked for that easier way, that implementation. I cut out a lot of the noise of what it was that I thought I needed. So before, any other times that I was trying to diet, I had, like, all of these charts and graphs and this and that and the other thing. And the more I can cut out the noise and simplify the process for me. Hi, Saeed. I'm doing well. Good morning to you. Um, so the better I'm able to simplify the process, the much easier it is for me to stick with it. And then when it comes to that middle part where it kind of gets boring, this is where you add in some of that excitement, that spice, right? Of, well, what can I do to change things up? What can I do to make things more interesting? And because you've shortened that front end and you didn't spend too much time with the pre-planning, you can move forward at a much easier pace, right? So it's a matter of understanding what kind of tools do you need. Um, Now this is where you can add in a bit more complexity because you've stayed with a simple process, um, and you've been able to execute on it, and then you've also been able to evaluate, is this actually working for me, or what do I need to change? Is it too hard? Is it not hard enough? And do I need to increase, um, maybe I need to increase my carbs. Maybe I need to decrease them. Maybe I don't like these certain foods. I need to change this up. Maybe I now need to start adding in physical activity. And what kind of things can I do that are easy for me to implement, especially when you're trying to make changes? You want to go for something that is easy for you to implement, and then something that is easy for you to sustain, especially if it's a longer journey. Thank you, Butter, for liking the live and tapping the screen. I really love the interaction. Thank you. So because if you have this long journey and it is too complicated, too hard, too far away from what you're used to doing, it will be too much of a barrier for you to complete that first hurdle. So shortening things down. So if switching your entire diet over to a low carb is too hard for you to sustain, and you're just like, the thought of never eating pasta again, or the thought of never eating bread or rice or potatoes or any of that kind of stuff is too difficult for you, can you do one meal? And every night my dinner is going to be this. Every lunch is going to be this. Whatever it is, can you start to implement it in smaller ways that makes it more sustainable? Because when you have a long journey to go through, sustainability is much more important than speed. Okay? how fast you get there is not so important. You're running a marathon here. You're not doing a sprint, right? And although agile method is a much more sprint-like process, you you put those sprint components within the larger process, right? Within the larger project plan of being able to do several iterations of it and several ways of kind of going, okay, now I'm going to do this, now I'm going to do that. Once that becomes comfortable, once that becomes routine, now you add in another piece to add more variety, add more challenge to the training, right? So the workout program that I was doing, like when I first started losing weight 2 years ago, it wasn't, I actually didn't intend on starting to lose weight. I had actually just started working with a coach on sales and confidence, and I started feeling better about myself. And because I felt better about myself, I started to make healthier food choices, and I didn't need the ways of coping as much as I used to. So the first 50 pounds that I lost was just by being happier, okay? Because I was making progress in other areas of my life. So success breeds success. When you start implementing in any area of your life, okay, you start implementing things that are a little bit of a challenge, not too hard, not too soft, right? But the Goldilocks kind of method, the just right. When you start implementing that, you start feeling happier, you start feeling more accomplished, and then you start building on that success. The problem is a lot of times we set these huge ass goals and then we start getting discouraged and then we start believing that I will never achieve that. So in order to actually be much more successful, implementing smaller goals, yes, have a longer term vision of at least which direction you're headed, right? But don't be so granular about exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to get there about it. You're going to build that next step. And then when that becomes routine, now it's okay to implement something else, add in another layer. And that helps you through that boring middle part because now you're adding a bit more complexity. You're making it more interesting. You're adding a little bit more challenge to whatever it is that you're actually trying to change. And this is where you can add the sustainability to it and the longevity to it, because when you're making these kind of changes, and yes, we have to make these lifelong changes, right? So but if we focus on the fact that it's lifelong, that's too friggin' heavy. I have to do this for the rest of my life? Oh, hell no. I'm going to go eat my potatoes. I'm going to go eat this. I'm going to go eat that. I'm going to do, oh, screw this workout. I'm too sore. I can't feel like this for the rest of my life. No. See, that's where we end up failing. And this is where it becomes unbearable. And so when we shorten these down to smaller chunks and we focus on what is the next building block that I need to do, can I do this for the next 24 hours? If the next 24 hours is too freaking hard for you, can you do this for the next, 2 hours, hour, 10 minutes, whatever it is that you actually need to do in order to know that you're okay with that. So, when I started doing some of the things, it's like the trying to do 12 hours for a fast, to do a fasting blood work at one time was near impossible for me. And that was too hard. And I couldn't go that long, and I'd freak out and I'd get upset and all of those things. And that's okay if that's where you're at. Shorten it down to something that you can manage. It's like, okay, if the thought of intermittent fasting is too hard for you, can you add in 2 hours between the next time that you eat? If you are somebody that likes to snack a lot, can you put, it's like, okay, you can have whatever you want, whatever snacks you want, but can you space that out, portion that out, say, okay, I'm going to have this snack, and now I need to wait 2 hours before I can have that next snack or that next thing or whatever. Because I know when I was close to 400 pounds, I can promise you I didn't have any boundaries around timing or any of that kind of stuff or portions, or it was a free for all, right? And and even when I did try, it just seemed impossible, right? That is a really long journey, right? So trying to implement a diet that I will need when I'm 150 pounds at 400 pounds is just way too much. It's too stressful. So make it much easier for you to progress along, right? Of whatever it is you need for that next step. Um, and be honest with yourself and be transparent. Don't let somebody else set what that bar is for you. You know what is too hard for you right now, and you know what is too easy for you right now. So, and you know those things that you need to do. And if you don't, Google's just like a couple of clicks away. So, if you don't want to use Google, then use ChatGPT, whatever it is. Something that you know that you can implement at an easy level. And if that is something more on the emotional side, say you know that it's like, okay, I know I need to do some journaling, but it's like, oh, it's too hard for me to do every day. Don't beat yourself up that you're not doing journaling every day. You're not doing mindset, you're not doing meditation, all of that kind of stuff. Don't worry about. Remove any of the barriers. Allow allow yourself to do this in a way so that you can create some sort of habit. Remove all of the barriers, all of the obstacles, okay? Whatever it is that will make it easier, remove those challenges the from you doing the thing. And if you, that means tomorrow you have to change it and you're like, oh, I'm not consistent with this is never going to stick. Okay, change it to whatever you need so that you can actually just keep moving forward and putting some paces in between, right? So in the beginning, one of the things that I did diet-wise is I added space in between my meals. I couldn't do that full um, 24 hours. I couldn't do that, sticking to the food plan or sticking to this or that or the other thing for the full day. So it's like, okay, well, can I just do one meal in the day? Okay, great. If I've done that, then I'm successful. Now what? Now that that's just normal everyday thing and I don't have to think about it, what can I do to stretch that boundary again? What can I do to make it more interesting, more challenging? Do I need to increase the amount of water I drink in a day? Speaking of which, I'm going to take a sip here. Whatever these things are, what is the next step for you that will count as progress? And it's so easy, especially nowadays, looking online, and it's so easy to compare. It's like, oh, they can do all these things, and they're just such savage beasts, and they can do all these things. And I'm like, I will never get there. Well, you don't have to worry about the, 10,000 steps that they're ahead of you. What is the next step that you need to take? And only you can determine what that is. Not your coach, not your mentor, not your best friend, not your parents, not your wife, not your husband. Nobody else can determine that. You will know if you're lying to yourself, right? What is the next step? So it's like if you fall down 100 times, I don't care, as long as you get up 101, okay? That is all that matters. So if you fall down, you make the mistake, you didn't do the thing, I don't care. Just get up, keep going. What do you need to do? Dust yourself off, brush yourself off. What's the next thing? Keep moving forward, because this is a lifelong journey. And not that you have to do this for the rest of your life, because guess what? You might go along a year from now, 6 months from now, a month from now, a week from now, tomorrow, whatever it is, and you will have new information. There will be something that's come across your path that will give you either a piece that will tell you, oh, shit, I've been doing it the hard way, and this is a much easier way, and now I can do this. Or you might be like, you know what, fuck this shit, I'm not doing this. I don't even know why I started this in the first place. I'm going to do this instead, and you pivot completely to something different, and that's okay as well. Change is part of life. Growth is part of life. And we are all designed to grow and change and evolve to whatever that may look like. I never in a million years would have thought that I'd be getting divorced. And here I am divorced and I haven't died. And I'm still living with my ex. And we are still friends. So it's like, it's not the end of the world. It's not great. It's not ideal. It hasn't been fun, let me tell you that. But it's also not the end of the world. What is tomorrow going to look like? I'm not 100% sure. But I know where I am today. I know that I'm moving forward. I know that this healing process can be challenging, but it's also rewarding. Okay? And I used to have somebody tell me, it's like, never say never, right? So I've known people that said that they were never going to have kids. They end up having a bunch of kids. And it's like, see, never say never. I always wanted kids, and here I am with just cats, right? So sometimes you can plan things and then they don't turn out the way that you thought they were going to turn out. And it's a matter of learning to find what is the blessing in that when the path doesn't align the way we thought it was going to. And embracing what is good about that. Because we could spend so much time lamenting about what has gone wrong. Hi, Maya. We could lament about everything that has gone wrong, and we could be in this state of depression or anxiety and misery. Misery of that it didn't work out, it didn't happen, it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to. And all that time that we're focusing on that, we are missing the blessing of what is actually happening for us. And it usually doesn't feel like a blessing as we're going through growth, as we're going through change. It feels fucking horrendous. It's usually how it feels. It feels like it's a total shit show. And you're like, nobody told me about the amount of fertilizer that was going to have to be heaped on me in order for me to grow. But guess what? Fertilizer is manure, and manure is shit, and that gets piled on pretty thick, and that is exactly what we need in order to grow. And in fact, if anybody told us and was able to predict the future and was able to tell us all of the things that we were going to need to go through in order to become who we thought we wanted to become and achieve that goal, we would have spent all of our time fucking running away from it and going, hell no, I changed my mind. And universe is like, no, you said you wanted this, so this is what we're giving you. And you're like, fuck, no, I didn't want that. That wasn't exactly in the brochure. I didn't read the fine print. But at the same time, These things that we go through, I can promise you, if you stick with it, if you keep moving forward, if you keep going, okay, so what is the next thing? What is the next stretch exercise that I need to do to get to that next step? And we focus on that and we evaluate, did that go the way that I thought it was? Did I make progress, or did I take two steps back? Okay, I took two steps back. Okay, what did I do that caused me to take two steps back, and how do I take that next step forward, right? And really going through this whole evaluation process and understanding that we need to go through this progress, not perfection, and know that every failure that you experience is that part of your epic story that you're building. And trust me, you don't want to get to the end of your life where everything is just perfect. No, I want to get to the end of my life where I've slip slided through this whole damn thing and I'm at the end of it going, damn, that was a really wild ride. That was friggin' awesome. Let's do it again, right? That's how you want to end your life. This is how you want to be able to go through it. Not that, hey, I showed up, I did everything perfect, everything was right, and yay me, I'm awesome. No, it's like, yeah, man, I remember that time I did the thing, and oh, man, have I got a story to tell you. And I do have quite a few stories that I usually tell. But I haven't gone too deep. I've kind of kept this a little bit more surface level tonight. But understanding that as you're going along, you can have your larger projects, your larger goals, your larger ambitions, right? But taking those little steps to get you out of the situation that you're in right now and enjoying the process that you're going through right now, finding those little nuggets of happiness throughout your day, and enjoying the hard things, right? Enjoying, it's like, man, this is really hard. This is really challenging because that's going to be the very thing that builds your strength, that builds your confidence, that builds your ability to feel those happier, joyful feelings, right? When you feel the depth of your pain, especially if you've gone through a period of just survival and being numb and not being present and just kind of floating and going through the motions of life. If you've gone through that and then you've had this whole shakeup in your life where you're like, how the hell did I get here and why am I on the ground? It's like, um, there's been times where it's like I've been clumsy through my life, right? I had a lazy eye, so I had depth perception issues, and I also oftentimes was in my head, so I'm not present in my body, which ended up causing where I'd trip over things because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't grounded. I wasn't present in my body. And I remember this one time I was coming down. It was perfect. We had this like long ramp down the side of the house to get to the back of the house. And in the wintertime, it was like often icy and you'd have to be really careful. Well, I'm coming home. It's a perfectly sunny day, not slippery, anything like that. And I'm carrying just two bags of groceries, not like a huge bunch. And I was walking down the side of the hill, not paying attention, wasn't present in my body. I slipped. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground. I wasn't that's how not present I was in my body. And I fell so hard on my knee, I didn't even realize I hit the ground, right? Until I was on the ground. I'm like, what the hell happened? And I hit with such force and impact. I was like, damn, this really hurt. And I got up, and then my leg really swole, got so swollen, and I ended up, I couldn't bend it, I couldn't move it. It was really, like, really, really bad. And within a few hours, I was like, okay, I can't even move this thing. I'm like, did I break something? What the hell happened? And so I went to the walk-in clinic. They gave me some stuff. They're like, okay, just put some ice on it, rest, all that kind of stuff. Um, and within a day, I think it was, it turned like purple, like it was black and blue and really, really bad. And it was like so hot. And I ended up developing blood clots in my leg. I was like, oh shit, this is not good. So like this is something that you can not be present in your body. And um, because of that, I ended up having this really bad fall and ended up having to, get these shots and blood thinners, and I had to go on this stuff, and it was crazy, all because of not being present. This is why it's so important to be present. And although that wasn't a fun time, um, it was something that I needed at the time because I wasn't slowing down. And sometimes our bodies will either get our attention by putting us in pain, having us get sick, um, causing us to have a little accident, any of those kind of things. It's like, God, the universe, whatever it is going to get our attention one way or another. And so we end up tripping up, and we have these tower moments, if you will, where we have these big falls, these accidents, these problems that come up because we weren't paying attention to the early warning signs. We weren't present enough to pay attention to the damages that were being stacked up, right? So, for example, my leg, because I was in so much pain, I wasn't moving around a lot, and because I sat still for too long of a period and wasn't continually moving because I wasn't aware that that's what I needed to do. All I knew is I was in pain and I didn't move, and that caused the blood clots. And then I ended up having all of this cleanup that needed to happen and had to be on blood thinners for like 6 months because of this. So it was crazy that I went through all of that just because I wasn't paying attention, I wasn't present, and I was pushing, 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 and just always on the go. And so, one way or another, universe, your body, life is going to get your attention to make sure, okay, now are you paying attention? Now are you present? Great. Now we can take a look at what is the processes, what are the things that need to be fixed here because you weren't paying attention. And now we have a huge project instead of little projects that we can implement, execute, and evaluate along the way, right? So instead of exhausting ourselves with all of this unnecessary planning and big projects, let's start looking at the little things in our life that we can start correcting today. What's one small thing that you can do? Is that something to do with your health? Is that something to do with your money, your wealth, that you know that you've needed to do that you haven't been doing? Is it something to do with your relationships? Are you upset with somebody that you haven't talked to? Can you extend an olive branch? Instead of being upset that they haven't called you, can you call them? Right? Those kind of things. Little things that you can start to implement in your day-to-day life. You decide what is most urgent, what is the next best thing for you to do. And do that in the next 24 hours. I would love to hear what it is that you've implemented in the next 24 hours of something that you've been meaning to change that you haven't changed. Is there something that's a mess in your life that you know needs to be cleaned up, rather than creating this whole great big checklist of, oh, I have to do this whole great big project? What's something that you can do for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, right? What can you implement today to take that next step forward? And then evaluate. Okay, you did the thing. Um, what can you do better? What can make it a little bit more challenging for next time? Was this challenging enough? Did you find, okay, you know what? I think I could do this again tomorrow. Great, do that. Because what you want is you want to be able to be in that middle state where it's boring, right? Where you've left the shore, you haven't quite gotten to the other shore, and it's a long swim to the other side. So find ways to make it fun, make it more challenging, make it sustainable, that you can actually stick with this. That's much more important than having this great big ramp up speed, right? Um, there's no point in doing it fast if you can't get to the end destination, right? And don't sweat the small stuff, right? Don't stress about um, hey, you know what? I screwed up on my diet today and I cheated. It's like, okay, next meal, how can you get back on track? Don't worry about it. It's like, and I don't care if every day for a month you screw up and you cheated and you didn't do the thing and you went over. Because I know how easy it is to just get discouraged and say, fuck it, I can't do this, right? It's so much better and you'll be so much more happy with yourself if you are able to put in daily effort, daily incremental improvements until it becomes boring. And then when it becomes boring, then you can change it. You can add something. You can make it a little bit more challenging, make it a little bit more interesting, and try something new, right? So this is how we change, this is how we grow, and this is also how we can sustain those changes, right? Um, because if you do, usually it takes some sort of life-threatening situation that'll get you to make an immediate and long-term permanent change, right? Um, that you kind of go, oh shit, I almost died, I need to make this change now, right? You can wait for that. You can absolutely wait for that kind of crisis to come into your life. Or you can start taking those little steps a bit at a time. And then you'll look back and you'll think it was no big deal. And meanwhile, you've journeyed this really long distance and you were able to accomplish some great things. It's like I lost 100 pounds before I realized I had lost 100 pounds because I wasn't really trying. All I was doing was focusing on making these little incremental changes. And I went, okay, this is easy now. Okay, I'm going to add this workout routine in. Okay, well, that workout routine's gotten a little too easy. Okay, this other thing came across. It's like, okay, I'm going to try this for a little while. And because I'm not making such a big deal out of it, it's much easier for me to stick with. It's much easier for me to go, yeah, I'm going to do this. And when I decide that I don't want to do this anymore, then I will change to something else. And maybe the weather gets nicer and I want to, be outside hiking or walking or, walking in the sun. Or now it's too fucking hot outside and I want to be back inside with the air conditioning and I'm going to do my workout inside. Whatever it is, right? It's okay to change it, to suit it for you, to adapt to what it is that you actually need to move you forward that next step. And I promise you, you're going to be a whole lot happier implementing these smaller changes until they become boring and then you change it up again. So, guys, I hope that was helpful. If you're new to the channel or you jumped in a little bit late, I will be uploading this on my YouTube channel, which is Coach Tina B 125. If you want to go over there, just do a quick search, check out my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. It helps me build up that following. And you will see some of the artwork as I do that for relaxation and part of my art therapy process. And those are available in prints and merchandise, whether you want to greeting card or skirt or t-shirt or a bedspread. You can do that. It's got all kinds of cool things that you can order that in. And guys, hopefully this was helpful. I would love to know your takeaways. I will be back on again tomorrow night, 11 p.m.-ish Eastern Standard Time. So we will talk to you again tomorrow, and have a great night, guys. Bye.